The big score for me and Andrew, and probably the happiest day of my life, even to this day, I remember it. We were always in sales, and we worked sales jobs. And the first time I ever tasted real money, we used to sell television advertising campaigns. We'd call companies that don't advertise on TV, and we try to sell them a campaign. So my brother didn't like the guys he worked for. Him and another senior salesman started a new company doing exactly the same thing, so they could be in control of the company, and I was working for them as a salesman. And me and my brother were the first people in the UK to bring an electronic cigarette onto television advertising. There was a bunch of walls, all these people wanted to advertise on TV, and we had this really good agent who was in charge of a process called Clearcast, which is checking the advertising standards and seeing if a product can be advertised on TV or not. And the company, I'm not going to say the company's name, they've probably gone out of business by now, was the first electronic cigarette company ever to be advertised on TV, because we managed to bend the rules to get the advert through. A couple months later, so me and Andrew made a lot of money. I mean, to us back then, $35,000, $40,000 each on this big deal, this $1 million deal, and we were super happy. And we assumed that we'd made it. We thought, okay, no, we've killed it now, because every month this guy's going to give us this much money. We're on $75,000, $80,000 a month now combined. So it's month one, we've got this money, what do? Let's buy an Aston Martin. Let's
How
buy
old
a
are
car.
you?
I'm 22. No, I'm 23 and a half. 23 and a half at this point. So I'm like, I know, let's buy an Aston Martin, because next month we can buy a house, and next month after that, it's all good, don't worry. So we take all of our money and we buy this secondhand supercar. And at 22 years of age, I had so much faith in myself. Obviously, I had faith that this deal was going to work, and I'd now made it, and I was going to be living good forever. But I had faith in myself, where I decided, let's take the plunge and spend this all on the car, because don't worry, we're gonna work this out at the end. So we take this car from the Aston Martin dealership in Cambridge. It's secondhand, 5 or 6 years old, but it was a drop-top Aston Martin Vantage that we owned outright. No payments, no finance, no nothing. And I remember driving home with my brother in that car to our crappy rented apartment in a bad neighborhood. And I had the biggest smile on my face, and that may well be the happiest day of my life. And the saddest day of my life was probably 29 days later, when Clearcast, the advertising standards agency, put a blanket ban on all electronic cigarette products on TV. I lost the contract, lost the deal. 3 months later, I remember looking at that car outside, not having money to put gas in it, and just thinking, well, that was stupid. But that was our, and then obviously because we had that car, we did sell it, and we did have that capital. That $60,000, $70,000 was very useful for the kickstart we needed. But that was after years and years of selling TV advertising campaigns for coffee, lip balm, making $3,000 or $4,000 a time. But that was the first time I ever felt like I was rich. And in theory, I was. And it all went wrong 29 days after that, yeah. We were I think that's the only electronic cigarette brand ever to run an advert on British television. And that was the story of how I bought my first supercar, I guess. But that was the first time I
Did you sell the car afterwards?
We ended up, we kept it for a year and a bit. And we got to a point where we did, in fact, need to sell it. We needed to sell it. And yeah, we did sell it. And but that was a very, very long time ago. But even the arrogance I had to believe this money's coming in is going to last forever, it wasn't so much arrogance in this company or this deal. It was more, I guess, faith in ourselves that we knew one day that taking this plunge wasn't going to hurt us. I don't look back on that day with regret, like, man, I should have invested that money somewhere else. I should have spent it on something else. And I'm in the position that I knew I would be in, looking back on it. And now I've got 5 Aston Martins amongst 60 other cars. Like, it's not a thing to buy one anymore, and the joy is gone.
I was going to say, what does it mean to you now to own those cars?
It's super nice. It's really nice to buy those cars, and I enjoy them, and I love driving, and I'm a big motorsports guy, and I love driving my cars. However, no feeling will ever compare to on that relatively cold spring English day with the roof down with my brother driving that first ever Aston Martin back to our council estate in our bad neighborhood, knowing that we'd probably have to, fight off attackers at some point. That was the best feeling in the world. I think that was the happiest day of my life, and I'm pretty happy. I'm a pretty happy guy. Like, I love life. But that's probably my best ever memory, And that's the
great memory.
It's the first time I ever remember feeling rich. And it was nice.
Okay, so now, what's the next step in this journey?
Well, the next step, me and Andrew, and I take a lot of flack for this. I take a lot of flack for this, and I always talk about it because I want people to understand exactly the industry that I got myself into. I ran a streaming company. So back in I'm an atheist at the time. I'm in my mid-20s, 24 years old. I come from the streets. There was this service that existed when you were younger, and you probably remember it, and all of the people probably older than me remember it, where it was these hotlines you used to call and flirt with beautiful women. So that had all died by then, and it evolved into streaming online on the internet. So I ran a completely legal, tax-payable company, and this gets me in some trouble nowadays, where I had these people, these women, streaming themselves on the internet for the same type of guy who would call the phone sex hotline. Usually just lonely dudes looking to talk to some chick, and that has made the newspapers last week. It made the newspapers last week, and I'll tell you why. Because when digging through all of my past, now they've come up with this thing. They said Tristan Tate, over the course of 5 years, got paid $2.6 million in money from streaming companies running these streaming webcam models. Now, I did that before I was a religious man. It's not a business I promote. I certainly tell young men to stay away from adult content today. That made me some money back then. However, a very important distinction I'd like to make is how many girls who ever worked for my company, my legal tax payable company, of which, by the way, there are probably 3,000 studios here in Romania. It's a popular business out here. How many of those girls are part of my current ongoing criminal proceedings? The answer, you'll be shocked to know, is zero. Because the police have called everyone who ever worked for me who they could ever find and said, look, you were working at Tristan as a webcam model. They're like, yeah. Did he ever make you do this? No. Did he pay you? Yes. All right, we'll close the book. So they've tried to tie this stupid allegation, and I think that's one of the reasons the allegation was made, when Andrew said, everything is my fault. One of the reasons they chose that as an allegation is because they have videos of me at 25 saying, yeah, I run this company where I have these naked girls streaming on the internet. They've linked two and two together, and in the public eye, the Twitter detectives are like, oh, well, they basically admitted to it. One, legal tax payable business, huge business here in Romania. Just by your Airbnb, there's a huge studio with probably 400 models streaming right now. Not a crime. Slightly immoral, I'll completely agree. Running a nightclub can be slightly immoral too. Lots of things I've tried to do can be slightly immoral. But how much connection does it have with my current ongoing legal proceedings? None. Zero. None of the girls they've listed as victims have ever worked for me. That was a completely normal, fine tax.
And that probably, excuse me, wouldn't be admissible in court, any of that. It has nothing to do with anything.
No, it's not about court, because nothing about my company is in the court documents, and nothing has ever been shown to a judge. It's all about public perception.
Public perception.
It's all about public perception. They want to drag you down, destroy you, drag your name through the mud. So when they accuse you of kidnapping somebody because one lunatic who was here for 5 days got invited to a party at my house that I wasn't at, by the way, and she made this allegation that opens the door, that she was kept here. Obviously, there are videos on the internet of her leaving to get pizza, her walking around the city by herself. Text messages of hers have been leaked saying, I am going to lie to the police. I will wear sunglasses so I look upset, so it looks like I've been crying. It's open and shut, a false allegation. Case closed. However, when one lunatic comes into your house for 1 day of the 5 she spent in this country, when I wasn't even here, and makes this kind of allegation, the internet can run away on this fantasy of, oh, well, he used to run this webcam studio. Do you think that was human trafficking? And it's a way of trying to distort my name, my reputation, and to make me out to be something that I'm not, which I'm fine with, because I don't really know who these anonymous Twitter accounts are. And, you know, the fact that they may not like me isn't something that loses me sleep.